What's going on, everybody? My name is Matthew, and today we are talking all things EHang after dropping 60% in market hours the other day. And I know we usually don't do things this way where I'm in the corner and projecting a screen. The editing and everything is very different most times, but I actually recorded a whole video on this topic. When I went to go edit it, the sound was not there. So it is, very early in the morning, kind of late in the night. I would like to get some sleep tonight, but I know this information is important. So I wanted to try and get this in one shot talking head video. So thank you for bearing with me on that. And we will return to regularly scheduled high quality content right after this. But this is urgent. So EHang dropped over 60% in trading hours after being hit by a short report by Wolfpack Research. And we'll get into a little bit about their track record, who is kind of leading Wolfpack, who Dan David is, and what his background is. EHang did respond with a press release saying they strongly believe, nothing definitive, nothing authoritative like you would have liked maybe, but they strongly believe the report contains numerous errors, misconceptions, misinformation, etc. And they did mention that they are still within the guidelines of the SEC and the NASDAQ. So that's a bit reassuring, but a pretty generic and weak response, my personal opinion. And I am really, really hoping that they'll be able to come out with a stronger response sometime soon. And hopefully they are working on this right now as it is daytime in China. And hopefully they can target and directly refute a lot of the main points written in this report. Now, personally, I'm going to be placing a stop loss on my EHang shares at about $49 per share, and that is because that will be just above my cost basis for this stock. And the reason I am doing that is because I believe 85 to 90% of this report can be refuted by your average Joe, such as myself, just by doing some research and some extra digging, which I've been doing for the last 7 or 8 hours consistently today. And I've been able to refute a lot of this report, which I'll share with you in a moment. But there's that last kind of 10 or 15%, specifically their relationship with this mysterious customer called Shanghai Kunshang. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Intelligent Technology. We'll just call them Kunshang for the rest of this video. And they have revenue transactions that are very, very fishy. And I guess in conclusion, to kind of give you a synopsis of what this video is going to say, I think the business itself of EHang is legitimate. I think that what they're doing is legitimate. The progress they're making in the EU and Asia and the investments they're receiving from large banks and funds, I think that's all legitimate. But I think this section, a large portion of their current revenues might not be. And I'll also explain why I think they may have done this, what it could be, but let's just jump right into it. Why don't we? So to kick it off, I think EHang is simply too well connected and has formed too many partnerships for me to believe that nobody, no government bodies, no funds that are investing in EHang, no one has done the due diligence like Wolfpack. Like, how has Wolfpack suddenly uncovered something that so many other people who have already begun to work with EHang missed? So, for example, they have partnerships with FACC, their manufacturing partner, and you can see the CEO. I had a video of this, but I'll link everything in the description below that I was hoping to put into this video, but there's footage of the CEO of FACC getting into an EH-216 passenger drone himself. So if that's not a sign of confidence, then I don't know what is. You also have European government bodies. You have Paris, for example, signing an agreement with EHang for the 2024 Paris Olympics and involvement there. You have them joining a lot of these initiatives and projects that the EU is creating around urban air mobility. And then you have GGV Capital, one of the largest shareholders of EHang, and is a fund that has over $6 billion in assets under management. You have them heavily invested in EHang, and they've been with this company for a very long time, since before they were public, I believe. How have they not uncovered this stuff that Wolfpack has suddenly uncovered? You have Carbignac Risk Management, who just invested $40 million into EHang at the end of January 2021, and that fund has over 37 billion euros in assets under management. So that's kind of a double-edged sword there, where you could argue that 40 million is not a lot to them. Maybe they don't care, but at the same time, you don't get $37 billion or billion euros in assets under management without being really good at your job and being really good at due diligence. So ultimately, I find it hard to believe that EHang would be able to trick or defraud all of these funds and government bodies as a business. And I think for Wolfpack, they kind of picked the low-hanging fruit here. I think it was a clever but kind of easy short target for them. EHang has a low float, meaning it will be extremely volatile in either direction. It's a Chinese company, so it has that preconceived notion that Chinese companies are all fraudulent and they all cook their books. And that's why you see so many companies that are Chinese companies trading at discounted multiples, even the bigger ones. And also EHang's early stage tech, right? They're very early days. It's very easy to poke holes in new tech and cast doubt in people's mind with new technology that has not yet been fully proven, although they have done over, I believe, 10,000 hours or trips of incident-free drone flights. So verify me on that. But I talked about it in my first video about EHang. So Wolfpack timed this short really well as well. The chart itself on EHang was at max euphoria. There was a lot of FOMO, and likely when there's FOMO, there's equally less due diligence and conviction. The higher the FOMO, the lower the conviction, I personally believe. And they called this short report right at the top of a breakout when it was losing momentum. So it was a pretty smart and strategic placement by them. However, a lot of people will call this a hit piece, and obviously Dan David is very emotional and biased in this piece, and it definitely is sort of a hit piece. Just the way that they're phrasing it, trying to sensationalize everything and getting a reaction out of you. However, I think it's not wise to just disregard it as, their track record is not good, or like, everyone shorts stocks and they just bounce right back. I think we should all take short reports on a case-by-case basis and really dig into them because, eventually they'll get one right. So if you haven't seen the documentary, The China Hustle from 2017, it's a documentary about a small group of short sellers that uncovered fraudulent Chinese companies one by one. And I watched it this afternoon. 3x speed is a godsend. If you haven't downloaded the speeded video adjuster on your Google Chrome, go do that and train yourself. It saves a ton of time. But yeah, Dan David is one of the main guys in the China Hustle, uncovering the fraudulent companies in China at that time. And he's the real deal when it comes to uncovering fraud. And he has done so many times in the past. So that doesn't mean he's always right, though. Of Wolfpack's most recent shorts, out of the last 6, I believe, only one of them has ended up being a profitable short for them, assuming they were still holding to this day. In other words, since writing a short report on several companies, Inspire Medical is up over 220%, QTT is up over 50%, SGH is up roughly 90%, Mark is up over 180%, and IQ is up about 45%. The only one that they have been correct on over the long term so far is GTT, which is down by about 70%, and that is a Chinese company. So I think there is something to be said that maybe they are not as strong as shorting and being right on US equities, but I feel like Dan David does have a bit of an edge when it comes to Chinese companies. So I'm just trying to be impartial here and be open-minded and not be biased myself either. Anyways, to get right into this report, I know that was a lot of build-up, but to get into this report, Kunshan has exaggerated physical presence, and its real operations appear to be a fraction of what it claimed. So there were 3 addresses on their website, and actually, as I was doing research on them, their website, the address on their website changed. They changed it like just a few hours ago, and I thought that was really weird. But there were 3 addresses on Kunshan's website, and apparently Wolfpack went to go visit them. One is a hotel, and one is supposed to be a 13th floor of an 11-floor building. So that's kind of suspicious to begin with, but again, I can't go and verify this in China. Oftentimes, addresses for companies are kind of just there. It doesn't mean you have to be there physically. So I don't think this one holds too much water, is too much cause for concern. Definitely take it with a grain of salt. Next thing, to the extent Kunshan actually does sell vehicles, it does not want to sell EH's products to us. When asked, the only employee on site on Kunshang who claimed to be the finance manager had no hesitation in voicing his disapproval of the EH216, instead offered their own. I think this one's kind of silly. There's no way for us to verify whether or not this conversation even took place, who this supposed finance manager really is, what is the context of this conversation, and when you visit Kunshang's site, I mean, I guess I can actually try and pull this one up for you, but when you visit their site, there is no even mention of a competitive product. It is simply EH216 pasted everywhere. It is everywhere. But these are all photos from investor presentations of EHang. They even have a tab dedicated to the Model 216. You look at their businesses, everything is EHang. Command and dispatch, this is the EHang command center. You look at flight facility construction, this is EHang, right? And you try and partner with them. Oh, guess what? You can't. It's an error 404. And you look at everything, it's all EHang. So I really don't understand how they could have offered a competing product when there isn't one on their website. You would think that there would be a competing product on their website if they really were a competitor. So with that being said, that's why I think this one is a bit silly. Now, moving forward, this is the one that's causing me to put this stop loss in, is this customer-supplier relationship with Kunshang and EH. So EH is supposed to be supplying Kunshang with drones, and Kunshang is supposed to be sort of the distributor, I guess, is at least that's the way that Wolfpack is framing it. And there's a set of SEC filings that basically showed us that there was a transaction between EH and Kunshang in February 1st, 2019, where for 450 million RMB, which is about over 60 million US dollars, Kunshang bought 3 units from EHang of EHang AAVs, meaning they paid over 20 million US dollars per unit per AAV. But then in June 3rd, 2019, they paid 30 million RMB for 20 units, which means it was about 215,000 per unit in June 3rd. But, pay attention, this says EH216, not EHang AAV, but how big can the difference really be? So how did the price of the units drop 1/100th of the price from the February contract? And then furthermore, you can see that they redacted the price on the February contract. And you have to ask yourself, why did they redact this? Now, obviously, Wolfpack is going to go with the worst case scenario and say that they did this because they realized that the $20 million per unit price tag was unrealistic if someone were to discover this, which Wolfpack did. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with them. However, if you look at Kunshang's website, it really does look like EHang just made this website in a few hours and almost bought their own product from themselves to generate revenue. Now, there's a couple of reasons why they might have done this. Maybe it was a government body from China trying to, I guess, fund EHang in a way. For some reason, it's not loading. My apologies. This is weird. We'll just go back. It could have been a government body trying to fund EHang through disguise as transactions and sales. It could have been a private buyer who didn't want to be known, who wanted to be disguised by this Kunshang company. Or it could have been EHang fabricating sales, which is what I'm personally nervous about. And conveniently, their first press release is in February of 2019, a few weeks after that first February 1st, 2019 purchase. And then they haven't had a press release in over a year now, well over a year now. And it's all just a bit concerning. And again, they actually did change this address right here a few hours ago while I was doing research on this company. So that's what is causing me concerns, the lack of transparency there. And I would need EHang to kind of directly address this if they come back with a stronger rebuttal. And if they don't come back with a rebuttal within a few days, I am 100%, doesn't matter what the price is, I'm probably going to be out of this one. But that is the main concern. The other things in this report are pretty, I guess is refutable a word, but pretty easy to kind of refute. All right, for example, we say we visited EH's corporate headquarters main manufacturing facility in Guangzhou, which will only reinforce our belief that EH isn't a legitimate company. So they have this video, right, of them going into the facility. I'm sure you've seen it by now. If not, it'll be linked in the description below, where they walk in and there's no one really there. Well, it's actually Chinese New Year, believe it or not. And it's very common for people, especially in Guangzhou, where a lot of people have to commute a pretty long distance to get to work there. It's pretty common for the bosses to give workers several weeks off for Chinese New Year, starting a couple weeks in advance. So if they had visited this facility in mid to late January, or maybe even just last week, there's most likely not going to be anyone there. They're all going to be on holiday. And if they're all on holiday, then obviously there's going to be an empty kind of warehouse. Additionally, I don't think that this is their main manufacturing facility. This is most likely a storage or staging area. If you watch the video, you can see the way there's a lot of boxes. They say that's proof that that's a lack of manufacturing. Personally, I think it's a staging area and they're just trying to frame it in a very negative light. And in that video, you can actually see many EH216s stacked up around the facility, which is actually great to see. A lot of product and real drones being built by a company that's supposed to be fraudulent. And in this report, Wolfpack actually completely failed to even mention FACC, which is EHang's manufacturing partner. What many don't realize is that EHang is actually more of the software and tech and battery side, whereas FACC is the hardware and manufacturing side. See, EHang serves as an inventor and expert for connectivity and software solutions, whereas FACC offers support in high-tech hardware with the development and certification and manufacturing of lightweight components and systems. But hold on. See, in the short report, it says that Dr. Mark Moore, a 32-year NASA veteran engineer and also previously worked at Uber Elevate, said that the propellers used on the EH16 are hobby-grade motors. The motors are hobby-grade motors, not aerospace products. But if only we knew who was helping vet the safety and manufacturing of these EH216s. Well, it's FACC, and if we take a look at their website, so FACC actually produces parts for Airbus, Boeing, Rolls-Royce, Gulfstream, and much more. They're the ones who have to stress test the manufacturing of the EH216, and they also supply parts to the biggest aerospace and aviation companies in the world. The Wolfpack report depends on the opinion of one expert who says it's made of hobby parts based on looking at photos. But let me ask you, do you think Boeing and Airbus would buy from a manufacturer that thinks hobby parts are sufficient for aerospace engineering? I have personally have full faith that FACC is producing safe, reliable passenger drones. And again, there is footage of the CEO of the FACC getting into an EH216 for a test run. All right, back to the report. We are back to this mysterious man at Kengxiang who says he's the finance manager. He considers the EH16 an old model, says it's not very good, and he says it's giving the user about 10 minutes of flying time. However, if you go and look at articles, which again I'll link down in the description below, of their test flights in Korea, it says that they had a flight time of about 21 minutes. So that is obviously much longer than 10 minutes. 21 minutes is still not that long. And EHang definitely has a long way to go. However, if you think about time and distance, usually we think about it in terms of distance traveling in a car, but on a drone, you are traveling in a much straighter path from point A to point B, which saves a lot of time, and you're traveling at a pretty constant cruising speed of about 100 to maybe 130 kilometers per hour. So this 10 minutes of flight time is, again, hearsay. It's probably not true on average for flight time based on the tests that they've already done in Korea and elsewhere. And again, it's based on a conversation that we cannot verify even happened. We don't even know if this person exists that they are talking to. And now let's move on. This is kind of covered in the video that I talked about, but now their next kind of point is that EH appears to be significantly misleading investors about its manufacturing facility in Yunfu. And they say that the CEO says we have already started to ramp up our production capacity with the new facility in Yunfu. And hear me out here. Basically, they're saying, hear me out here. The CEO said they've started to ramp up production facility with the new facility, not in the new facility. So in other words, they're starting to increase their capacity of the overall company by building the new facility. He didn't say that they were already ramping up production in the facility and producing new drones and everything like that. Now, maybe that's too nuanced to be convincing, so I'll point to their investor presentation. And here they clearly say they plan to start production in H1 2021, or first half of 2021. So if this was month 6 of 2021, say in June, then the facility was still not fully built out, then I would start to get nervous because they should be in production by then. But it is literally just barely even 2 months into the new year, and they just had Chinese New Year, so they had several weeks off. I'm really not that concerned about the stage of the Yunfu plant right now, and I'm going to give them at least a few more months to really start making progress. And if we look at what the Wolfpack has actually said themselves what it should look like, well, based on what they said, they basically need to go from this to become a functioning factory. And I don't know about you, but to me, it doesn't look like anything structurally needs to be changed. It looks like it's more about the appliances and the floor plan and maybe some hydraulic stuff. I don't know, but it looks like this can be done in the next 4 months, definitely. Now, ultimately, there's a lot more I can go through in this report. It's a 33-page report, and there's a lot more that I can go in and refute. But I feel like the time would not be too well spent, and I want to keep this video relatively concise. I know it's going to be a pretty long one, but I want to bring us back to this. This is what's making me put in that stop loss, what's making me very hesitant about moving forward with EH. And, I said I would be holding these shares for a very long time unless something fundamentally changed, and at least to my knowledge, this is a fundamental change because it is new information. Maybe I didn't know it before, but I know it now, and I have to take it into consideration. And just a lack of transparency, the fact that their revenue numbers and sales numbers may be fabricated, I think it is a possibility. And I've definitely learned a lot of lessons through investing in this stock, and I can probably I've shared that with my top tier patrons as well in a more extensive video. But this is what's keeping me from going full bullish and buying the dip on this stock right now. I need to hear from EHang a direct response to this portion of their report. So I hope all of that makes sense. Again, at the end of the day, I think that EHang is a business making real progress. They are striking real deals and real partnerships throughout the world, and that is not fraudulent in my opinion. However, these numbers, these revenue numbers, that is definitely suspicious, and that is enough to kind of want to keep me out of this stock. There are thousands of stocks out there. I don't want to try and force this one and make it work, or try and convince myself to make it work if I don't feel like it's right at the end of the day. And if it's not a stock that I can sleep well at night holding, then I'm not going to force myself to do that. I'm going to try and find a better stock out there and much more opportunities. And believe it or not, I actually have a few stocks, long-term ideas that I've been waiting to share with you guys. It's just the last couple of videos. I know they've been different kind of content, different kind of format. That's not what this channel is headed towards. It's just a few things have come up that I feel like I should or had to make a video on and prioritize those with the limited time that I have right now. And I do have some ideas. So next video, expect my newest position or some stocks that I'm watching right now very closely, and I'm excited to get back to the regularly scheduled content. And with that, I'll see you around, and I hope this helped. Peace.